Part 59. Al-Sufa, the people of the Sufa. As the number of emigrants continued to increase, there were not enough of the Ansar to continue the Muwakkah system for everyone. The new arrivals would base in the Prophet's mosque, and they became known as the people of the Sufa. Their numbers would fluctuate between 5 and 70, and most of them would stay for a short period of time to learn the fundamentals of Islam and acclimate to life in Medina. However, the Sufa soon became a hub of knowledge and faith, and some members would voluntarily remain to learn from and interact with the Prophet. Most of them were bachelors, but some family men would opt to stay in the Sufa over their own families in order to be closer to the Prophet. The Prophet's mosque was in many ways the first university in Islam. Al-Sufa were highly respected, as they sacrificed everything for the sake of Allah. Many of them had nothing but the clothes on their backs. It was even narrated that the female companions would complain to the Prophet that the awrah, private parts of some of the young men, would be exposed when they prostrated in prayer, as their clothes were not even long enough to cover their whole bodies. Once the beloved daughter of the Prophet, Fatimah, complained of her household chores and asked for a servant to assist her. The Prophet replied emphatically, "How can I give you a servant when the stomachs of Al-Sufa are collapsed from hunger? No, by Allah, I will sell all of them, that is the servants, and spend the money on them." Fatimah never asked the Prophet for a servant again. Al-Sufa became the flag-bearers of knowledge and piety. They became memorizers and masters of the Quran to the extent that they were known as the people of the Quran. In fact, Al-Sufa were the indirect cause of the compilation of the Quran into a single book. The Quran was passed down from Allah to the Prophet via Jibreel orally, and the Prophet in turn taught the companions orally. The entirety of the Quran was written down on pieces of bone, leather, and parchments, but only as a tool of memorization. However, many years later during the caliphate of Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, the apostasy wars against Musaylima, the liar, inflicted many casualties amongst the Muslims. The people of the Quran, practicing what they preached, were warriors that fought for the religion of Allah. As a result, many graduates of the Sufa were martyred. Umar ibn al-Khattab then pleaded with Abu Bakr to compile the Quran before more people of the Quran were lost, and Abu Bakr eventually obliged. The most famous member of the Sufa was Abu Hurairah. His name was Abdul Rahman ibn Sahur, but was more commonly known as Abu Hurairah, the father of kittens, as he would famously carry a small kitten in his sleeve. He came from a middle-class family yet sacrificed his luxuries to accompany the Prophet in the Sufa. He suffered from extended bouts of hunger and fatigue for the sake of this closeness. Later, he would recall,
"Many times I would ask companions questions as they walked home, and by Allah, I knew the answer better than them, but I would ask in the hope that the conversation would extend until they reached their house, and they would perhaps invite me in to eat."
Abu Hurairah was from Yemen and only came to Medina after the 7th year of Hijrah, yet he narrated the most hadiths of all the companions. He narrated 1,236 individual hadiths, comprising 5,374 iterations. The successors would often ask how Abu Hurairah knew so much, despite accompanying the Prophet for a much shorter time than other companions. He replied,
"The people complain that I narrate too many hadith, but were it not for the fact that Allah criticized those who withhold knowledge, I would not have narrated a single hadith."
Abu Hurairah was referring to the verse,
"Those who hide the clear proofs and guidance that we have revealed, after we made it clear for humanity in the book, will be condemned by Allah and those who condemn." Surah 2, verse 159.
As for the Muhajirun, they were busy buying and selling in the souks of Medina, and as for the Ansar, they were busy cultivating and harvesting in their fields. As for me, I would stick to the Prophet with an empty stomach, and therefore I would memorize what they would not.